Welcome to Meaningful Work Matters. I'm Andrew Soren, and today I'm joined by Dr. Beverly Kaye, one of the most influential voices in career development, employee engagement, and retention. For decades, Bev has shaped the way organizations think about keeping people growing and thriving at work. Her best-selling books, including, get these titles, Love 'Em or Leave 'Em, Up is Not the Only Way, and Help Them Grow or Watch Them Go, are considered classics because she has a rare gift, making complex ideas practical, simple, and unforgettable. In our conversation, Bev shares why growth is about much more than climbing a career ladder, how kaleidoscope careers open up new ways of seeing opportunity, and why conversations about mattering may be the most powerful thing a manager can do. And of course, Bev brings her trademark humor and honesty. You'll hear stories of how failing her dissertation orals 3 times led to the insights that fueled her life's work, and why something as small as noticing and naming what lights people up can completely change how meaningful work feels. This episode is packed with wisdom. That's as fun as it is practical, and I think you'll walk away with tools you can use right away to make work more meaningful for yourself and for others. Welcome to the Meaningful Work Matters podcast. I'm your host, Andrew Soren, founder of Eudaimonic by Design. On this podcast, we'll dive into the world of meaningful work, explore its complexities, and examine its impact on people and the organizations they're a part of. Each episode features insightful conversations with cutting-edge experts who are successfully navigating the challenges of meaningful work. We hope to offer you ideas, frameworks, and tools to unlock potential and design work that's fulfilling, impactful, and supports everyone's well-being. Subscribe or follow us now, and let's make meaningful work matter. Bev Kaye, welcome to Meaningful Work Matters. It is a real honest-to-God pleasure to be able to have you on this podcast. I've been a big fan of your work for years.
Oh, you say that to all the girls.
It's true. I do. But sometimes I really mean it. It's not that the other times I don't mean it. It's just that today, I don't know. Your books have really inspired me. There's a way, I'll just say right off the bat, as a warning to listeners, Bev's capacity to be able to take often complicated ideas and make them super accessible and easy and sticky, especially sticky, has made you one of the most, well, frankly, important names in the organizational development space in the field. And so it's a real pleasure to have you on this podcast.
Thanks for that lovely opening, and I appreciate it. I have been doing this work for a long time, like close to 50 years. I turned 81 this year, and I am not done. I think my joy doing what I'm doing is that, in a way, you're right. I want to make the complex simple. My whole organization operates out of everything we deliver, we want to be deceptively simple, delightfully engaging, meaning it should have a smile factor, and decidedly business centric, because every
Mm,
business is so different.
mm.
So you have to think of the milieu in which people work. So I'm lucky that I chose a field. And it wasn't my first choice, I didn't move into it, immediately, but that has, kept me learning and sustained me for all these years. Whoever helped me do that, thank you.
Thank you for all of us. Thank you for all of us. Well, learning is probably a good theme for us today. I mean, if there's probably a central underpinning to so much of your work, it's about the importance of development in our growth and in terms of ultimately what makes work meaningful. I mean, so much of your writing has emphasized
You're
how
right.
growth opportunities are just essential to not only engagement but also to meaningful work. So maybe tell us a little bit about that. What does that mean for you?
And maybe they're, essential to our health too,
Mm,
because when we have meaningful work, I think we feel better. And I think what I've always said is growth is more than a rung on the ladder.
Mm,
That's just one piece of it. And I wrote Up is Not the Only Way originally based on my doctoral thesis.
hmm,
And I had to do phenomenological research, which means I had to study a phenomenon. And when I thought I had captured the phenomenon, I had to write about it. And I failed my dissertation orals 3 times. My committee said, "That can't be it. Go start again." And each time got me closer to really figuring out how development works inside of organizations. And I've stuck with that model, embellished it in many ways ever since.
hmm.
So I think growth leads to good health.
It's true. I mean, just to comment a little bit on some of the research that has evolved over your career. I mean, I do a lot of work with a woman whose name is Carol Riff, who studies what are the psychological ingredients to well-being, and for her, personal growth and development is one of the key factors that
Mm,
she studies and has studied for years in longitudinal, high quality research that looks at the impact of things like growth and development on our health and ultimately like our biological health, our mortality rates over a lifetime. And she
right,
has shown, I mean, unequivocally how your, I think, belief that it's important not only for, us to be better employees, to potentially enjoy work more, but ultimately to live longer, to be healthier. That orientation around growth is it's a really important
right.
thing.
And I think when managers open up growth conversations,
Mhm,
when they ask, when they listen, when they guide, they send the message to the individual that you matter.
mm,
And I'm listening to you, I'm tracking you, you matter. I've
mhm,
got some time to really hear you out.
mm,
So, those 2 words, "you matter," mean a lot to keeping your team.
mhm, mhm. Yeah, we've certainly heard that on this podcast before. I mean, you were at an event that we just did with Zach Mercurio, who talked about mattering and the importance of mattering, or
Right,
Isaac Brzezinski, who close to a year and a half ago was on this podcast and talked about the importance of feeling valued and adding value and what the role
right,
of
right,
mattering is in our lives. I mean, it's so much of everything.
right,
Yeah. I wonder whether so like I mean thinking about our careers, right? You've always really encouraged leaders and employees to really think about their career as a kaleidoscope. Not just not just, climbing a ladder.
right,
I think that this idea was a really important idea when you first started talking about it. I mean, I remember, decades literally ago, like when I first started hearing this idea of kind of lattice not ladder, it was really important. But I think that now, in the context of how work is changing and evolving, this idea that we can't think of a career ladder in the same way that we did is even more prescient than it's ever been. I mean,
right,
it's almost like a mythical ideal that our career will be, predict that we'll have one career in the course of a lifetime.
right. And I
Um,
I wrote Up is Not the Only Way in, 1982, it was first published. Little did I know that mobility would become a really important item
yeah.
for every manager and in every organization.
Mhm,
If I don't feel I can move up, that's one thing, but if I don't feel I can move anywhere
mhm,
other than right here, it's another. And I
mhm,
love the kaleidoscope because you can stay where you are and just change the picture a little bit,
mhm,
and that kind of turns you on again. Different from a telescope, which we all would use to aim for that. That's the one thing I want. There's a lot of disappointment
Uh-huh.
when you aim for one thing and it's not possible.
Huh.
So, kaleidoscope careers are another way I think I frame the idea of you don't have to leave your job to grow, to make it more meaningful, et cetera.
Can you tell us a little bit more about kaleidoscope careers? Like, what does that mean? What does it look like?
I think it means that you can change slightly, not in gigantic ways. I think it means that you can look at what you do differently and even look at what others do
Uh,
and say, "How can I learn from somebody who's not my manager, but my pal in this other part of the organization?"
uh-huh.
And that changes the picture you have of what's possible.
I think this is again another way in which you were so ahead of the curve. I mean, some people talk about job crafting now as the opportunity to be able to do that. We've had Rob Baker on this podcast talk about the way that we can think about job crafting, whether it's tasks or relationships or the purpose of our work, how we experience well-being, all of those things in micro ways, not necessarily macro ways, but micro
Right.
ways can
Love
change
I love
and
that
can
you're
have a
saying
massive impact.
right,
What do
right.
you think? What do you think the role of managers is in that process?
You know, I think managers, number 1, have to do their own homework on
Mm,
themselves.
yeah.
Yeah, it's why when in the days of delivering, workshops that lasted 2 and 3 days, those days are far gone. But we always said managers needed to go through the career process first for themselves
Hmm,
because it's very hard to help someone when you feel stuck or hemmed in or don't see opportunities for yourself. So I think a manager has to be opportunity minded for himself or herself, as well as opportunity minded for their people.
hmm,
And I think, as a rule, people are either opportunity minded or opportunity blinded.
hmm,
You could be in the same kind of position in the same organization and have an open opportunity mindset to say, I never thought about doing it that way. I never thought about learning from her or from him. The opportunities are there. They just need to be grabbed and pounced on,
hmm,
or maybe suggested
mhm,
to an employee. Have you thought about,
hmm,
what part of the job do you love the most? And how can we build that more in to what you are doing?
hmm,
So, I love the idea of opportunity mindedness, meaning there's opportunities all around me that might not be so hard for me to step into, and that's critical.
this mindset, an opportunity mindedness versus an opportunity blindedness is another one of your sticky bevisms. It's terrific, but like, how do you help a manager understand that? How do you help them change their mindset?
Maybe you've got to start with the manager himself or herself.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe the leader has to help his own leaders by asking them what makes them the happiest, what
Mm-hmm.
part of their work lights them up, and what part of their work takes away joy.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe those are messy questions that managers don't feel they have the time to ask. And I think they need to. And I think being opportunity minded as a leader and demonstrating that helps the leaders who report to you say, I am pretty stuck. I haven't looked at opportunities to the left of me, to the right of me, in front of me. etc.
Hmm.
So I like the idea of opportunity, and I think the kaleidoscope shows you with a little twist so many different pictures of what could be.
There's something that you just said that I think it really underscores almost everything that I've ever read of yours, which is the conversation, right? Like
Right,
the way, like the tool, the number one thing that I feel like you are constantly encouraging managers, especially, but really anybody in organizations to do is have more and better meaningful conversations. Like
right.
it's like the biggest reason why an employee would want to stay or just run from their jobs. Like those conversations are so critical. You talk about stay conversations versus leaving conversations. And I feel like those conversations can be really scary. I mean, A, because of the fact that we don't know how to have the conversations. Nobody ever actually teaches us how to have those conversations.
Right.
But beyond that, we can learn things in those conversations that we have absolutely no idea what to do with. Like, what if somebody's really dissatisfied? What if somebody's unhappy in their job? And like, what can I actually do about that as a manager? It's almost better off not to know than to be confronted with some of
That's
that.
why they avoid the conversation
That's right.
completely.
And so
And,
yeah, like, how do we deal with this? Like the power and the risk of that conversation.
in the book on stay interviews,
Hmm.
I talk about managers being afraid to ask the question,
Hmm.
what do you need I want to keep you? What's really important?
Hmm.
Because what if the employee says something that's out of that manager's control? Then they're really stuck.
Hmm.
And I think managers have to be able to say, I can't deliver on that, not now. But tell me more about what you love doing and what you want to do more of. And I'll watch for the opportunities.
Hmm.
And I'll let you know when my hands are tied. And maybe that's what psychological safety, that's such a popular word, is nowadays.
Hmm.
That I can't come through for you on that, but
Hmm.
let's keep talking till there's
Hmm.
something I can, because boy, I don't wanna lose you.
Yeah, I think that's really helpful. And I mean, if I think about psychological safety, it is. I I mean, I think what Amy Edmondson would say is, I want you to be able to speak up and tell me what you want. I don't want you to be afraid to tell me what you want. That doesn't mean you're going to get what you want. That you can have your say. It doesn't mean you're going to get your way, kind of thing. But I always want you to feel like you can say it. Like I'll have your back if you say it, and that. Um, honesty and transparency that you just articulated in terms of, you know, I want to hear it. It doesn't mean that I'll be able to find that opportunity right now,
Right.
but if I don't know about it, I can't look for those opportunities. I can't be
Exactly.
opportunity minded if I don't know what you actually want.
Right. Right. And I think individuals are opportunity blinded,
Mm,
and they don't see the choices.
mhm,
So managers have to learn opportunity mindedness. Have you ever thought about this? Have you noticed this? Have you watched so and so? Or even a statement like, I noticed your face lit up when you delivered that talk to our work group. Tell me what lit you up. And maybe those are the things we don't ask enough of.
mhm. Yeah, I
So
mean,
it's conversation
it
on it.
it's conversation and honesty, but it connects to being seen, right? Like, I mean, what you
Right,
just said, right? Like, you lit up during that conversation. Oh, you noticed, right? Like, I mean, it's
right. And
that's
that's a 2-minute
totally,
conversation.
totally.
What made you light up or what made the lights dim
Mhm,
in your face and when we talked about the project that's next.
mhm,
So it's seeing and saying what you see
mhm.
that gets us into great conversations.
So simple, so hard.
It
There's
it
so
is
many.
so simple and yet so hard,
Yeah.
and we are the ones that make it complex.
Hmm.
If we just noticed people who report to us and tell them what we noticed, that's a great gift. I noticed how smoothly you did that particular work that was new to you.
Hmm.
What made it go so smoothly? It's it's that.
Hmm.
It's saying what you see,
Hmm.
maybe.
Um, okay, so much of everything that we've just talked about has been about growth and development. Um, do you think that there can be too much of a good thing around growth and development?
You know, there probably is a dark side to it. There probably is, uh, I'm overwhelmed, I'm weary, I can't take one more thing on, that sometimes the lack of psychological safety doesn't let us admit to our leaders. So maybe it's finding, I always say, it's finding time when it looks like there is none
Hmm.
to comment on what you see, to comment on what you just heard,
Hmm.
and to get some feedback from that employee. So sometimes too much growth uh, is not right for an individual. And I think managers need to read the signals, sometimes the quiet signals that people send, and maybe ask for more information about, I'm getting the sense that this last job was a burden for you. Was I right or was I wrong?
Hmm.
And maybe that will help
Hmm.
uh, uh, managers get into more real life conversations.
Hmm. Do you have a sense as to what the signals are that a manager might be looking for?
I think it's written on the face of the employee in so many ways. It's why working from home is so hard because we don't see them struggling
Mm-hmm.
or we don't see that. And it's why I think um, noticing and watching and saying what you see is so important so that the employee can say, no, I didn't really mean that.
Mm-hmm.
Or, yes, that's exactly it. It's almost like saying, thank you for noticing,
Mm-hmm.
that I don't think we say enough back to people who give us a compliment. I think we tend to slough it off.
Hmm. Yeah. It is. I'm just going to pull out on one piece that you just said about kind of the work from home. I think there's so many wonderful things about being able to live in a world where we actually can work from home as much as those of us who are able to and have jobs that allow it are able to, and especially in I think we learned through the pandemic when all of us had to work from home that it was actually quite possible to do. We could be productive. We could have great relationships. We could do all sorts
Right.
of things. But I do think that learning and development is one of those things. We can do a lot of that from home. You can do a lot of that asynchronously, but there is something that's just fundamentally better about learning in person with others. There's something that really, uh, and I think that part of it is, I mean, I don't think I've ever thought about it in the way that I just have with you articulating. It's the capacity for others to see us as we learn, to be witnessed as you're learning, that is really hard to do when you're virtually.
Right, right. And so we have to try harder.
Yeah.
In the Julie and I just wrote the 3rd edition of Help Them Grow or Watch Them Go. And our publisher said, talk about how you develop people.
mm,
when they're not in front of you. And it takes a mindful leader to make these video conversations happen
mhm,
and to comment on what they're seeing
mhm,
and to ask for more information. Just saying, "Can you say more about that?" is an invitation to go deeper or wider, and I think that's important. Um, and noticing when someone is burned out, and saying, "It seems like this wasn't at all a passion project for you. Tell me what made it so heavy
mm,
for you to do and carry?"
mhm. I'm thinking just about all of the episodes that we have had on this podcast around meaningful work. How do we make meaningful work matter? And one of the challenges so that sometimes happens with meaningful work is that the meaning becomes so important to us that it does burn us out. We become obsessively passionate about the work that we do. We open ourselves up to exploitation and alienation and regret and frustration and like unnecessary stress and maybe even necessary stress and burnout. But so much of that comes back to if we have someone in our corner noticing, being curious, asking, it's caring, yeah, fundamentally
Right,
caring.
that is a sign of caring. That I notice the glow in your eyes is dimmed,
Mhm,
and why has that happened?
mhm,
And not everybody can answer a question like that easily,
mhm,
but the fact that I'm your leader and I'm interested in all of you, um, and wanna make this something you look forward to coming to
mhm,
instead of a drag. Um, it also, it touches on all my work on engagement and retention.
mhm,
So it was a fairly easy move for me to make from writing Up Is Not the Only Way, books about career, to Love 'Em or Lose 'Em, which is all about retention and engagement. And I think that's crucial now for me to understand what keeps each and every one of my people and what dims their light would be important.
mhm. Um, I'd love to make this conversation a little bit more personal, if that's okay, and ask you about you. I mean, so much of this conversations, so much of your work has been about helping people focus on growth and development within their jobs. But I mean, you just said that you turned 81. Like you're in a different place and stage in your own career. You said you've been working on this stuff for 50 years. You're in a different act of your career, of your
Yeah,
growth, of your
the
life.
3rd act, right, right.
And I'm curious what does growth mean now for you? How has that changed?
It's a hard question
Yeah.
'cause I'm exploring what the next step I take is. It's not vacations, well, it is a little bit, but um, it's not necessarily closing the door on all this work, and it's maybe helping people look at retirement in a whole new way,
Mhm.
that retirement doesn't mean goodbye, door closed and locked. It's what do I wanna do
Mhm.
with the years I have?
Hmm.
Yes, travel, yes, enjoy life, yes, all those things, but also keep learning.
Mhm.
And that's what I think sparks me.
Mhm.
Keep reading, keep learning, keep asking, keep noticing. All of that maybe keeps you young.
Mhm. Mhm. Have you noticed for yourself ways in which the things that you want to learn or even how you learn have changed?
You know, I'm not a big techie, so, I am working to get better at all of the wonderful resources we have, like
Mhm.
ChatGPT. I built a, uh, a Bev bot with all my books in it. So when I ask it something, it can give me back some of my own words even that I'd forgotten. But, yeah, I'm in that place, not ready to retire.
Mhm.
So I'm doing a little bit of writing
Mhm.
about that subject and about when you're not ready, then what other steps, what other directions might you go in?
I've heard Arthur Brooks, and of course one of his books, From Strength to Strength, is a book that explores questions of specifically purpose as we age, and the research is really clear that in a lifespan, um, when people hit retirement age, there's a real bifurcation in terms of people's health and well-being, and it's completely connected to purpose, like so causally related to purpose that insurance companies now are one of the biggest funders of insurance of purpose research because the actuarial scientists understand
I
the
didn't know.
link, the causal link between having a sense of purpose in life and mortality. Like literally, you will live longer if you have a sense of purpose. And one of the things that I think shapes purpose is growth and learning. I mean, it's very much connected to this conversation that we had. And so I feel like finding ways to continue to learn is really important. But I feel like one of the things that Arthur Brooks talks about in that book is uh, what you are learning, what you are doing, how you are trying to use your expertise does change. And he talks about the difference between, I guess, technical expertise, being, the subject matter expert, versus a kind of crystallized intelligence, which is really about being an elder, being a mentor, being a role model, being somebody who can share wisdom as opposed to necessarily need to be the technical expert.
Right, right, right. Learning's all around us,
Mhm,
and the opportunity to learn is all around us.
mhm.
And I think sometimes we get so caught up in our own worlds and our own issues and problems that we forget, like, what did I learn today? What struck me today? I think would be a great question to ask ourselves, ask our kids.
And what did you learn today? I think it's great. I think that one of the other things that I'm reflecting again on this conversation, and I'm thinking about my own parents, and especially my mother, who is a university professor throughout most of her career and is now in a stage of retirement, and thinking, okay, what does life look for me? And the thing that she wants to do at this point in her career, in her life, is be a mentor, help others. I mean, I think back to the earlier parts of our conversation about meaningful conversations and that noticing, right? Like to have people in our lives, to have elders in our lives who can be noticers for others, who can ask those meaningful questions.
I like the word noticer.
Mhm,
I'm a noticer. I say what I see. We often don't
mhm,
say what we see.
mhm,
And saying what you see in another person, I think moves them
mhm,
into a new space. And it's interest. I'm interested in you. I
mhm.
think that's what every employee wants from their leaders. Show your interest in me, not just as one more on your 25-person employee team, but me as the uniqueness of me.
It's probably what we all want as human beings, not just as employees.
Yes. Absolutely. And we want it all our lives, no matter age.
Well, you've been a pioneer in this field for decades. Kind of a final word on this podcast. If you were to give one last piece of advice to leaders about how to foster more meaning, maybe more mattering at work, what would that piece of advice be?
It's interesting. The word matter,
Hmm.
mattering just came to my mind too. That individuals want to know they matter and what you see in them that is unique. And maybe that conversation takes a minute of seeing something and then saying to the person, here's what I just saw in you. But we never get to that second part. We register it in our heads and our hearts, but we don't say it. I just want to see people say what they see more frequently to their employees, to their colleagues, to their bosses. I see how you finagled your way out of that. Or I see how you turned the question around so it was easier to answer. All of that, I think, are big pluses for leaders nowadays. Because life can get pretty lonely when you're working from home, when you're going through a phase where you don't believe in your own skill set anymore. And maybe talk is the best medicine.
Well, Bev, I'll say what I see in you, if that's okay. As I think about this conversation, as I think about all of the ways in which you have inspired me as an individual within my career, you, I think, are somebody who knew things about what it meant to create a human-centered workforce before anyone was using that term. And you knew things about what it meant for people to have really human conversations before that was a thing. You truly have been a pioneer. And part of the reason I think is because you do notice and you're prepared to call it out. And you're prepared to do that in ways that are filled with care, filled with compassion, filled with a genuine hope that people can be their very best selves, and and a kind of genuine care to try to make that happen. Like you don't just notice it, but you've given us so much great material to actually move those ideas into concrete action in very practical, tactical, sticky ways. I'm very grateful for you, Bev.
I'm going to keep this moment in my head when I go through one of my dips, which I do go through.
Of course. You wouldn't be human if you didn't.
And you, my friend, you make this conversation very easy. The way you think about that next question, the way you hear nuances in what I say. So you are one good guy.
Thank you, Bev.
You are welcome.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of Meaningful Work Matters. If you haven't already done so, be sure to subscribe to our podcast on your favorite platform. And if this episode resonated with you, please take a moment to leave us a review. Your feedback helps us make this podcast better and reach more listeners. You can connect with me, Andrew Soren, on LinkedIn, or visit www.eubd.ca to learn more about Eudaimonic by Design. Finally, if what you heard today spoke to you, tell your colleagues and people in your community about our podcast. We really appreciate your support in making meaningful work matter. See you next time.